Hey, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are now in year two of our speaker series, and I've got a special thing going on tonight. Um, we have our very own Dr. Pam Maurer is going to be our speaker this evening, and she did give me a bio, but I'm probably just going to wing it because I can. Because Pam is an amazing person. She is one of my partners in this endeavor. She's also a friend and also a fellow faculty at Colorado Technical University, where she is teaching organizational behavior. Um, she's had a bit of an interesting career as she's laid out. As she described it as a zigzag career, which is probably about like many of us. Uh, you know, Undergrad, took some time off, did the work, and then decided to go into veterinary medicine. As you know, a lot of people in our field started off somewhere else. That's kind of interesting. She loved that. She also figured out at that point in life she loved school. So now she's basically a professional student with what was it, six degrees, I think, at this point,
Yeah.
including getting her master's degree in the UK because Pam can't do anything, the easy way.
No.
Um, she does have the niche of middle management. She calls those the lost souls. I feel every bit of that in my being. Um, but that's her focus, and so she's going to give us some of her wisdom. I ask that you think of any questions you may have. Drop them in the chat. Do the little raise hand. We'll call you in, whatever. And at the end of this, we will have a Q&A. So if you don't want to, jump in the middle, totally fine. And with that, I'm going to hand you to my friend Pam.
Thanks, Lee. So when I was thinking about, okay, what in the world do I talk about just 2 weeks ago? What's defined, I would say, how I look at my career today and going forward is how I helped managers, supervisors think differently, because there's not a whole lot of training and learning and experiential type stuff when they're put into the roles. They're just said, here, go do. And so how do you get them to think from different perspectives and so forth? And so it's all about what I did to build trust, allow employees to have their voice, and in some ways allow them to make the impact in the organizations. And so here's my little, list of my professional student life. A couple of degrees in veterinary medicine. I worked with most animal types. Started out with the horses, and just kind of got happy with the science and the medicine side. And that actually led me into the business side of things, got me interested in L&D, all the training and development, and all my undergrad or my finishing my bachelor is where I started APA. And so that's just kind of my foundation of what made the rest of my degrees easy. And yep, one of my masters was in the UK. Loved it there. Program, kind of boring. It was too much like my master's. And then went back to Walden to finish my PhD. So that's my list of what I've done academically. From a professional perspective, the highlighted colors are where I've spent most of my time. So licensed veterinary technician in California, uh, worked on legislative regulatory stuff as well. Founded our state nonprofit state association for RVTs. For my UK degree, I was an intern at the local police department, and then a research assistant, and I've been business manager. I've got two words in there for a tech startup. Kind of you wear a hat and you do everything. I did payroll. I've done outside sales, manufacturing. It's been the full gamut. Started out in photomask, really long time ago. And then over the last 10 years, it's been pump compressors and pulp and paper. And it's just been in the last 10 years that I've really touched the labor relations side. And then I got wheedled into, hey, you want to come be an adjunct with me? So working with Dr. Kim Derryberry and Mr. Lee here at CTU. So kind of my, main career things that have shaped how I go about things. A little bit of history. So my parents, just before they got married, and this is probably the two things that have shaped, I would say, how I've gone about, the world, I guess you could say. My dad was in the Air Force. He started out in Castle Air Force Base in California. We went off to Okinawa, which is where I was born, and then we went off to Holloman in New Mexico, and then our last station was Homestead in Florida. And then horses. My mom and I have been into horses for almost 40 years now. I don't remember this, but my mom says I asked for horseback riding lessons for my 13th birthday. I have no clue. I have no idea where that came from. I don't remember. But we've had horses for 37, 38 years. And this mare was my buddy. I could do anything, go anywhere with her. She was the bomb. I was able to do a whole lot of stuff because I had her. And then my little collage here, I got my buddy down in the lower left corner. And then I didn't have a whole lot of pictures from when I was a tech. We just didn't take pictures. We didn't have phones at the time. We were too busy working to actually, stop and take pictures. But I did have a picture for this one little filly that needed extra support after she was born. And then Newcastle upon Tyne, that's where I went to school for the UK Masters. Neat town in the upper northeast. It's where Sting grew up in Newcastle area. And then there's a couple pictures from Wisconsin, where I lived for 6 years. And my Wisconsin house was the first house that I was able to buy. Missed that house. And then I got a picture from one of my PhD cohorts, residency cohorts, Barcelona. I decided to do all of my residencies internationally. So this one was in 2017. And then I did a couple of work visits to Germany. And I think this one was from 2019, went to Marienplatz, neat old buildings, cool shopping. The horse down on the bottom, the Doofus Boy, that's my current horse, Bach, 22. My mom has his half sister. She's 28. Arabs age very slowly, so you wouldn't know that they are 22 and 28. And then the little dude in the center, he's sleeping away on his warmy blanket, but he's just been my buddy for the last 8 years, keeping me company. And then the quote in the middle is kind of, it to me, it means not only from, if your horse bucks you off or if you end up falling off, you just keep refusing to give up. You keep going. I'm known for being rather ornery and stubborn, so it kind of fits me. Okay, so what I did to create something that is meaningful, that can be meaningful for me, and hopefully it makes sense to everybody else. I reverse engineered this from scenarios that I have experienced. Actually learned something about how I work, how my brain is wired by putting through these slides together. And so I'm coming at it from, here's the scenario, here's the IO concepts, and here's a few of the theories. And I've always known that I'm a relational thinker. You ask me to define something or explain something like I'm an encyclopedia, it don't work. I'll be a deer in headlights and going, my brain's spinning. Yep, nope. But you put it in a situational, and you won't get me to stop talking. I will just keep going, and I'll keep remembering things and connecting things. And so that's how I have built these out. And so these are my 6 topics: mentoring for growth, value beyond titles, constructive union relations, engaged change leadership, power of appreciation, and change agents at work. Let's see, just checking my notes because, yep, got to have notes. Can't remember a thing. Don't ask me to participate in a play and memorize lines. It don't work. Let's see. Okay. So mentorship and a new manager. So when I was hired on for what I call the Wisconsin job, moving from California to Wisconsin, I was a contract HR generalist. And first thing I was asked to do by the director of ops was to mentor this new manager. She was had been an employee at the organization for about 30 some odd years, part of a layoff. And so she started up her own little business repairing the pumps and compressors the company made. And so they ended up buying her business and then merging it with another brand. And so she handled the merging of these two little things. And I was asked to mentor this new manager. And so we started with about 20 people. It was a 30,000 square foot facility 2 miles down the road from where my office was. The biggest thing that made this successful was her. Her name was Pam as well. We were soon called Pam Squared because we were just kind of connected at the hip. We got along so well. We had the greatest relationship. And it was all about her being open to learning, listening, making mistakes, taking the criticisms, and learning and doing. And it was through just listening to her from her expert perspective of being a frontline employee, starting from bottom, going all the way up to being president of the union, and just knowing how everything worked from an operational perspective. But she wasn't too too knowledgeable on the people side of it. And so over 2 years, we grew the facility from about 700,000 a year and about 20 people to about 30 people and about 1.2 million a year. And this put the facility on the CEO's radar that he wanted emulated at other facilities. And we were able to accomplish this growth with what I call as purposeful turnover. She informed me that there were some employees that she wasn't quite sure were really cut out for what needed to be done. So we gave them the opportunities. And purposeful turnover, being very specific, being very respectful, and putting together IDPs that were very meaningful. Hey, if you did the work and you got up to snuff and you performed the way you're supposed to perform, hey, we'll have you for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. But so a few were, kindly, shown the door. Hey, we think you're going to be better off, elsewhere. And through, and since Pam knew the products, the processes, the systems so darn well, she ended up building the SOPs and step-by-step instructions. And so we ended up reskilling and upskilling the current workforce. And it was just through this partnership of, give and take that within 1.5 to 2 years max, going from being over there 2 to 3 days a week, I was there a couple times a month. And she was such a quick learner. And because she had such a people quality to her, and that was also the differentiator between her and other managers. She knew how to people, they didn't. And so we just built on that. She built relationships with her team, and she would be out on the floor. She would know anything and everything that was going on in her facility. And that's what the CEO wanted to emulate. And we tried it, it didn't work. And so I'm not going to focus too much on all this little gobbledygook that I have on the slides. It's more or less to kind of pull out certain aspects for you, because I'll kind of get to a few bits and pieces at the end of, that kind of pull everything together of why I built it out. And so the slide content is more or less for you guys. I kind of want to present the story and then go from there. And I need to speed up because I see my time. So non-traditional roles, widget makers. My office sat 4th floor on top of a die-cast aluminum facility, ticking time bomb. Because if you put in an aluminum can in with that raw aluminum, so it was always a bit interesting when we had new people coming through. We didn't know, if someone was going to be dumb and stupid. Talk about safety standards, being upheld. And what I really learned from these die casters, because many had been there 30, 40 years, they knew their stuff. They knew why stuff worked, how it works. And they went from die cast machines to where everything was put into the machine by hand, pulled out of the machine by hand. And these are big, huge machines that weigh 10, 20 tons. And you could walk into, and if everything wasn't lockout, tag out to do the maintenance, you'd have a very big, horrible OSHA situation on your hand. And so the institutional knowledge from these individuals was just amazing. And I learned a lot from them just by standing there, listening, gabbing, having them, talk about things. But they would also know what was going on in the building. Even though they were on the bottom floor, totally noisy, it was the place visitors came to see, because there's not many die-cast facilities like this one still around. And so they would hear things from executives coming through, guests coming through. Oh, we heard about this, we heard about that, because not everybody realizes that these guys keep their ears open, and they actually are a heck of a lot more smart than most people give them credit for. One of the machinists, brilliant man, absolutely brilliant. He just wanted a job to where he could come in, do the work, go out. He collected antiques. And so that's all he did on his weekends and time off. He just wanted something to earn a paycheck so he can go antiquing. But the brilliance there. And so I had learned to leverage that in how to look at the business and how it ran, what worked, what didn't, they weren't against change. They wanted to be, they wanted to participate in the change. Let's see, union relations. Holy smokes! So this combines a couple of different union scenarios. My large facility for my Wisconsin job was based in Northeast Louisiana. And when I was promoted to manager, we had an I can't even talk, NLRB case and 2 arbitrations. Ugh, I tell you, that was not fun. And the company did not win the NLRB case. And we got a very effective slap on the hand and you must do this, that, and whatever. The 2 arbitrations, we won one, we lost the other one. But it really came down to how do we change what we do when we interact with the union? Most unions, there's a known adversarial component to it. With the Louisiana union, the Wisconsin union, they were, there wasn't much to them. And then I had another union for a different business unit that I supported in Michigan. Talk about the nicest people, the easiest people to get along with. Holy smokes. But the Monroe Union and then eventually the USW union that I worked with out here took a little bit more effort. And so with the Louisiana one, it was really learning who are these people. South, I don't know much about people from the South and how they work. And oh, he's mad at me? That doesn't sound like he's mad at me. So it was kind of translating the different ways of how people would, come across. And it came down to Louisiana, talking to them more, getting to know them, and making sure supervisors actually talk to them. Oh, who would have thought? But then we get to pulp and paper. And with the facility I was at, the United Steelworkers, holy smokes, they are known for being grumpy. I'll just put it nicely. Talk about adversarial, talk about yelling, swearing, just ripping people apart. I mean, you name it, anything negative, talk down to the whole schmeal. And once they learned that I was not the cookie cutter version of my boss and that I would actually listen and do my best to work with them, I actually got them calmed down and working with me, actually interacting with me and working with me outside of the scheduled union meetings, all because I would sit there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon before their shift started and just let them talk, let them listen, connect with them. And they would have their little, grump sessions during the scheduled meetings, but it toned down quite a bit. I didn't get a whole lot of swearing, really didn't get a whole lot of yelling. I got some, going to talk up and kind of banter a bit back and forth. But it was, trying to make things better. And one of them was going through the grievance process. The grievance process when I got there was just out the window. The operations was split into 3 sections. The manager, director levels had no clue until it got to 3rd step, which is usually when the general manager and the HR manager would meet with the union to go, okay, how do we resolve this? Do we go to arbitration or can we actually resolve this? And I'm like, that's stupid. What the heck? So 1st step, supervisors would never work with the union, no matter how much I tried. So guess what? 2nd step, I brought in the whole freaking team, supervisor plus 2 layers of managers, and then the director and me. We walked through the whole darn thing because no one knew about it. And so, we can solve things now. We can fix things. And it's like, okay, director, managers. Now you know what's going on in your department. And this is a big facility, 700 employees, 550 are union. Two shifts, horrible shift structure, but anyway. And again, it was all about bringing everybody together, having conversations, everybody participating, and we could get things resolved. I had no arbitrations come out of any of those third steps. And even when I had, what did we call them? Post termination conversations to where the union would want to try and, talk us into bringing the person back that we had terminated. I was pretty darn successful of nope, once they're gone, and was able to explain to them why. So I felt pretty darn good of how, I was able to, bring the union in and kind of build some relationships there. And so this was kind of a neat one. So pulp and paper mill, USW union, superintendent, he was on the kind of the first step to where the wood, whether it's wood chip or, form, tree form, and it goes through bleaching process, green liquor, black liquor, and processes it all the way into paper type pulp, which then gets spun into making, whether it's tissue, napkin, paper towel, or whatever. So that was his area, playing with all of the dangerous chemicals that could be an environmental disaster. Since we had the mills on a river, an even bigger environmental disaster. And so he wanted to change the ladder. So the ladder is kind of same as what we think from a hierarchical in corporate. You got your CEO, your C-suite down to your VPs, directors, yada, yada, yada. Same type of thing from a union perspective. You got your entry-level job, and then after so many years, you can pitch to go up to the next level when there's an opening. And so you can go up, sometimes there's 3 levels, sometimes there's 6. And so the superintendent took it upon himself to go and have a conversation with the union of, I want to change around the ladder, I want to change some of the job duties. But he only gave them one version. And that was it. So, of course, he hit a big brick wall. And so he came and talked to me, explained the whole situation. And so this is where I was able to go, okay, 1, this is how you talk to the union. 2, this is how you need to approach the union. And it really comes down to you have to give them options, different variations. And so he ended up coming up with 5 different versions of these changes. And he would need to have a reason, explanation of pros and cons for each of those different versions. And then it would be the superintendent asking the union, okay, what works for you? What doesn't work for you? Before he even talked about his rhyme and reason of why he put these together and which one he really wants to go with. And that was all of the participatory, get their input. And that was the big thing with USW. They want to feel that they are part of the process, part of the change, part of the conversation. And oh yeah, they're the subject matter experts of how the mill works. And some of these union people that were on the union leadership team, one of the gentlemen, he retired a year after I left, and he was 47 years at the mill. So talk about institutional knowledge. And each individual on that leadership team had minimum 15, 20 years at the mill. So they had seen HR managers come and go, that was for sure. But they've also seen um, uh, different department managers come and go. And they've seen just how things stay the same, things constantly change. And so, and they've also seen the progress of how the different paper machines have um, progressed in terms of technology. Instead of just being all hand and, no technology, no extra equipment or anything to kind of to sit in a control room in their own ivory tower and control things from afar. So they've seen all that progression. And so that's what I was explaining to the superintendent. That's what you have to draw on. You have to get them to, think on their own of, okay, what are we trying to change? Why? How did, what could they have done before that may actually benefit going forward? Because how you've done things before, there's stuff to learn from there. There's some stuff that you can keep using, but maybe shift it a little bit. And so I was actually asked to join the second conversation, and that one went a whole lot better. I don't know if it's just because I was there or that the superintendent had a better idea of how to work with the union. And that's the other thing that I really pushed is supervisors, you have to talk to the union, include them, have them in conversations, go just talk with them, bring them donuts or something, they're not evil. They have a particular mindset, a particular focus, but they're people. They have their own job. You have your own job. And so how do you bridge the gap and make the management versus union more fuzzy and, reduce the angst and reduce the bullying that comes out of the union? I mean, that's a given. It's just how do you mute it a little bit so you can actually get somewhere? So appreciation. This was at the pulp and paper mill as well. Another manager ran a team building exercise. I kind of saw it as, let's get the management team actually knowing each other better, because I really saw a big, huge lack of collaboration amongst the management team. It was, I don't know, however many people there were, 8, 10, 12 management type people, all going in 8, 10, 12 different directions. And one of the exercises, which I thought was a really good one, to kind of as a way to not only learn about the people on the team, but it kind of as an icebreaker as well. And so and we sat in a line. There was, I think, 8 of us there, and it was to think of one word to describe the person on your right. And so with ops being split into 3, I had an ops manager on my right, I had an ops manager on my left, and then to the ops manager on my right, the person he was supposed to find a word for was for the regional VP general manager. The right operational manager had a tough time trying to find a word to describe, the VPGM. And I'm like, it's not that hard. And so that was a kind of a interesting component of why. Why was it so difficult? Does he just not think that way? Does he not know how to, interpret who people are, their behavior, personalities? I don't even remember what I had called the, the one word that I had for the manager on my right. So that tells you how memorable that was. But what was memorable is the one word that the ops manager on my left used for me, and it was the word appreciation. And that anybody that I talked with, met with, I made them feel appreciated. I would say even in one of the multiple termination conversations of kind of explaining to the union of why one person just needed to be terminated. Even during that, I'm still trying to make the employee that big fat boo-boo uh, feel that he could still try and amend things, still try and fix things. It was just something that he said came across unprofessional, disrespectful, a little racist. And he clued in that, oh, I did make a mistake. And so it was just how I would, interact with people. Any amount of time, it was, they were the focus. And so that just kind of stood with me in how I approached people, how I approached, the situations with each people, no matter how much it made certain employees feel embarrassed or shamed because of whatever their actions were. It was still to, make them feel that it, they were still part of the team. We're trying to make them part of the team, but you know what? Your actions don't fit with the company values and so forth. And then looking at my time, let's see. Okay, so this is where it all comes together. So I have this knack for seeing the gaps, patterns, trends at the pulp and paper mill. And I think it was the superintendent that I had the example of. I was known as the bubble popper. And so essentially that's around just bringing the different perspectives to people. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't think about it from that direction. And so I would start asking them questions, or have you considered this? Have you considered that? I'm sure my students are tired of me saying that as well. Well, have you considered this? Well, you need to consider this, this, and this, and this. And so I bring in all the business components besides the people components, the job components. Hey, you may want to, always remember the union contract. You think about a company policy. Well, what's the comparator to the union side of it all? And so it's how I infuse everything that I learn, and I use my intuition. And so this is, like I mentioned earlier, I've always known I've been a relational thinker. And so one thing that I've learned out of this is the situational cognition, to where, and where did those notes go? Here we go. So again, this is where I can't remember any of this stuff, so I have my notes. So situational cognition is psychological theory that asserts knowledge is inseparable from context, and people often perform best when responding to situations rather than abstract definitions or isolated concepts. My brother's the encyclopedia, so he can go and just, once he reads something, he remembers it, and he can just go on and on and on and on and on. And there's people that can remember definitions. Yeah, no, me. I'll just sit deer in headlights. And so this is how I have taken all of my degrees, all of my experiences, and I have to be very, very purposeful. If I read something in a book or an article and I want to translate that into a very specific action at work, I have to use so much brain power and effort to try and use that. And I can only do it every once in a while. It's got to be very impactful. And so I'm one that I know I just take it all in, and then poof, I come up with a suggestion, an idea, an observation. I just have to reverse engineer how my brain just did that. And so that was kind of one thing that I had learned about myself, and learning a new term that I'm going to go down a rabbit hole: situational cognition. It's I just pull everything in and use it. But do I know what theory this is based on, or what model? Or nope, nope. I just know it works because I've read it, I've experienced it, had conversations. And so I want to kind of touch on it and remind even myself and others, and point it out to others, that if you're not a dictionary type, if you're not an encyclopedia type, it's okay. Here's a different type: relational thinking, situational cognition. We need to have a situation to base it off of. And there was one other thing I was going to mention, in one ear and out the other. And it's okay that we can't be a dictionary or an encyclopedia. That's what it was. So from that experiential side of it, I'm one that has to experience something, and then I'll have questions. So being an instructor at CTU and going through how they have set up the courses, I just need to experience a term. And then I will know how to move into the next term, have questions and all that kind of stuff. And now that I've gone through and actually revised the course, being the lead SME, architecting the course and so forth, now I have an even bigger picture. So I'm one that has to experience it in order to understand it better. I have to touch it, interact with it, converse with it, play with it. My learning is experiential. I can read it. I much prefer reading than listening. My brain will just go off into la la land, and the podcast is still going on. And so I need to read, but I don't retain in a, definition, blah, 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 blah. I retain by using it and such. So that's, here's a bunch of reference stuff. You guys are really interested. I can send you the list, but questions, comments?
Yeah, if anyone has a question, feel free to come off mute, or you can drop it in the chat, whatever you'd like to do. And you, Pam, you have a comment. I believe you said from your co-author. This thanks, Pam. It was great learning more about your experience and how you connect the dots of your career and IO psychology concepts that apply to your experiences in the workplace. I have to jump off. Great presentation. Thanks again. So.
Yep.
I'll just say it. I was typing too slow. Awesome seeing all your work in that you've done with unions. I can't remember who I asked. It was a while ago, or maybe I've asked multiple people. Like I would be like, why aren't more IOs in unions or doing union work? At least I hadn't heard of many. And I don't know. I think I had asked, and just people who I knew also who were IO psychs didn't know anyone who worked with unions. So this is awesome that you shared all those experiences. Kind of pretty hopeful, or definitely positive.
I think this is just what I've kind of read between the lines and observed. Labor relations is very HR focused, since HR is predominantly a compliance type role. Labor relations is very much rules, regulations, and law. You have a union book that is, you have to follow it, because if you don't follow it, those union reps will know it, and you'll start in grievances. And if you can't solve anything in the grievances, then it goes off to arbitration. And what the arbitrator says is his decision. You got to follow. And if that doesn't make the company change or the union change, depending upon what it is, well, you may get a lawsuit or it may go to the NLRB, so there's a lot of compliance, but I would say that IO can do a whole lot there in terms of the behavioral, the interactions, the improving of how two groups get together. Yeah, exactly, Cam. And that's where I think the experience comes in to support the academic side. The academic side is kind of there as your guide and your influencer in a way, from an informational a perspective, a guide for work in a particular way. But it's really the interactiveness, and working with people and trying to really come at it from a problem solving, critical thinking perspective that I think is really impactful. And that's really what it comes down to with unions. You got to take the union contract and go, okay, did we break the contract in what we did? Did we do it on purpose? Did we do it on accident? Are we trying to do something on purpose? And then, how do you resolve it from there? So to me, it's just a lot of problem solving, critical thinking, and just building relationships. Exactly, Leah. And I wanted to really point out the relational thinking, the situational aspect of things, because I think there's so much put on that, oh, we have to remember all these, theories and terms and models from a dictionary or encyclopedia perspective, or at least that's how I've felt going through school. And it's like, no, there's probably more people out there like me, because I'm like, okay, I can't be the only person that thinks this way or uses information this way, so that's also why I wanted to put it out there, is there's more ways that we think about these topics that we learn. There's more ways to use this information from an IO psych perspective, because I was in HR for 8-10 years, and compliance was secondary, tertiary for me. For me, it was more people centered. And that's where I just infused to really, because if you focus on the people, making sure they understand everything, got your communication right, expectations right, all that compliance stuff, it'll feed itself in and you're not going to have any compliance issues. But when you are so darn business centric and compliance focused, no one wants to hear rules all day long. Yeah. Also, Leah, if connect with me on LinkedIn, or send me an email, happy to send you some of the articles I found for the situational cognition and such, because I know I'll be going down that rabbit hole.
What? You went down a rabbit hole?
Not yet. I'm going to.
I can't believe
I didn't have enough time.
No, I think that you brought up a really important point, that a lot of our more academic brethren don't always think about. I mean, until I started teaching a class, I couldn't tell you a single theory, man. It's been so long since I've been out of school. I don't think in theory. I know the concepts, how they've applied at work, and I can talk to that. Can I tell you that it was, you know, this person and that person, 2002? No, I can't. I don't know. But, and I think that that's probably a concern for a lot of students in their graduate program because we throw so much theory and
Mm.
remember this and cite everything and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, I can't remember all this. Yeah, you're okay. One of my favorite stories is someone asking Albert Einstein what the speed of light was, and he said, "I don't know." And they're like, "Well, how did you do relativity?" And he goes, "Why should I bother to memorize something I can look up?" I don't know if it's a true story or not, but it's a great story.
So one thing that you mentioned, Lee, of, why do we have to do all this citing and so forth? I don't remember, all the content from my dissertation and my, 4, 5, 6, 8 pages of my reference list, but I remember the authors that were, the main people that were the foundation of what I wrote, Maslow and Demaruti, from a burnout type perspective, Schaffelli, so it's recognizing who these people are and hey, I'm gonna go follow them on LinkedIn now and see what they're actually doing in real time. But it's connecting with the authors and their main concepts and knowing, oh, I want to go look at this and I'm gonna go, see what they're doing, who they co-authored with, and that it to me, that's the relational aspect of it, of who have all these authors gone and done other work with. Because when you get certain people together, Schaffelli, Demaruti, and a few others, it's like, holy smokes, why aren't more people listening to them? And so that's kind of also what I get out of, the citations and such, is just knowing who all these other experts are. Well, anything else? Well, so I also have another kind of philosophy that I tell my students. So we have what we call live chats, kind of what I call a fuzzy synchronous time with the students once a week. And I have my office hours the following day because I tell the students, just because you're in this muddle of information that I throw at you doesn't mean you're always going to come up with questions in the moment. I know my brain doesn't work that way. I need time to think through it. And so that's why my office hours are the day after, but I always tell them, just reach out. Something pops in your head, just reach out. And so that's what I want to say here. If something comes up, uh, after the fact, or if are watching the webinar, days, weeks, months ahead, reach out. Happy to have a conversation or share notes or whatever, because not everything is going to pop in your brain, in the moment of. So
Well, Pam, I want to thank you so much. You've been
thanks, Lee.
just an amazing partner in this endeavor, and and Arlene and I just couldn't do this well. I think I couldn't do it without both of you. So thanks. And
Absolutely. It's been fun.
this was very, very informative. I appreciate you stepping in to share this. For all of you who are listening, uh, for those who are alive, don't forget. Please take a few moments to fill out the survey when you exit. Also, the recording of this will be on our YouTube page within a few days. And if you missed our first year worth of speakers, please check out our YouTube channel. We got some phenomenal speakers that, in fact, there's a couple in the room right now who had
Mhm.
really great sessions that I hope you'll take advantage of. And please, if you've got if you've got ideas, if you can think of someone that you just think would be a good speaker or something, reach out, let us know.
Yep.
We will, the one link I don't have, thanks, Leah.
Yeah, and I don't have my notes up. Leah, I'll send it to you because I think you said you connected with me. So I'll send it to you.
I won't take but a second. I'll get it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes,
There
so
it is.
for
Boom. Yes,
thanks, Leah.
please. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pam.
So for December, we have, I always get her last name wrong, Dr. Martha Grajek?
Grade.
Grajek. So we got Dr. Martha in December, and then we have Dr. Emmy Baresi in January.
Both excellent, brilliant individuals that
Yep.
I'm very fond of personally. So I hope you'll come back and join us for that. Please let us know if you have other ideas. And I thank you for joining us this evening. And we'll talk soon. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.